The marble floor of the Hawthorne Legacy Hotel gleams under crystal chandeliers as Emmett Thorne pushes his cleaning cart through the grand lobby at 2 a.m. The silence breaks when a woman's heels click frantically across the tiles. Celeste Hawthorne, the untouchable CEO whose portrait dominates the entrance wall, stumbles from the executive elevator, her normally perfect composure shattered as she clutches her throat. Sterling Blackwood, the charming CFO in his immaculate midnight suit, rushes to catch her as she collapses, his black leather gloves gentle against her silk dress. "My darling, what's wrong?" Sterling's voice drips with concern as he cradles her head. But Emmett notices something off in the man's eyes, a flicker of satisfaction quickly masked. Celeste's lips move, barely forming words in what sounds like ancient French. "Il a toujours été là depuis le début." He has been here from the beginning. Her trembling hand reaches past Sterling toward Emmett, who stands frozen with his mop. Sterling's expression hardens for just a second as he notices the janitor watching. Then the mask of worry returns. "Someone call an ambulance!" he shouts to the night security guard, his arm tightening possessively around Celeste's shoulders. But as Emmett steps closer, medical instincts from another life stirring, Celeste's fingernails dig into his wrist with desperate strength. 3 deliberate scratches that spell out a message he learned in the military. SOS. If you're enjoying this story about hidden dangers and desperate rescues, please consider subscribing to hear more tales of ordinary heroes facing extraordinary circumstances. Your support helps create more content like this. The ambulance arrives within minutes, but Sterling insists on his private medical team instead. Dr. Whitmore appears as if summoned from thin air, carrying an expensive leather medical bag. "Stand back, everyone," the doctor commands, though his voice carries the same calculated cadence as Sterling's. Emmett notices they wear identical black leather gloves. The janitor pretends to return to mopping while watching Celeste's shallow breathing. Her skin has taken on a grayish pallor that triggers memories from his emergency room days. "Just exhaustion and stress," Dr. Whitmore announces after a cursory examination. Sterling nods sagely, already pulling out his phone to arrange private care. "I'll personally oversee her recovery at the penthouse medical suite." The way he says personally makes Emmett's skin crawl. There's ownership in that word, not concern. Emmett knows he should stay silent, remain invisible as he has for 2 years since losing his medical license. But Celeste's eyes find his again, pupils dilated unevenly, a classic sign of poisoning, not exhaustion. He thinks of Lily sleeping at home, her inhaler on the nightstand, the bills piling up. Then he remembers his oath to do no harm, which includes the harm of doing nothing. "She needs a hospital," Emmett says quietly, stepping forward. Both men turn to stare at him, as if furniture had suddenly spoken. Sterling's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "I don't recall asking for the janitor's medical opinion." The contempt in his voice could strip paint, but Emmett holds his ground, noting how Sterling positions himself between them and Celeste. Her pupils are asymmetric, and that skin discoloration suggests toxic exposure, Emmett continues, knowing he's crossing a line that can't be uncrossed. Sterling's jaw tightens imperceptibly. "Interesting observation from someone who cleans toilets." Dr. Whitmore interjects smoothly. "Perhaps you watch too many medical dramas on your breaks." The security guard shifts uncomfortably, caught between his boss's CFO and a janitor spouting medical terminology. Sterling makes the decision for him. "Please escort Mr. What was your name again?" He pretends to search his memory, though they've passed each other hundreds of times. "Emmett Thorne," the janitor supplies, chin raised slightly. "Yes, escort Mr. Thorne back to his duties." Sterling commands with casual authority. "We have real medical professionals handling this." As the guard approaches, Celeste's hand shoots out, grabbing Emmett's wrist with surprising strength. Her voice comes out as barely a whisper. "Stay." The single word hangs in the air like a challenge. Sterling's carefully composed face cracks for just a moment, revealing something darker underneath. "She's delirious," he says quickly, but his hand moves to Celeste's shoulder, fingers pressing down with subtle force. She winces, and Emmett catches the brief flash of fear in her eyes. "Miss Hawthorne has requested I stay," Emmett states firmly, not moving from his spot. The security guard looks between them all, clearly out of his depth. Sterling's smile returns, but now it carries an edge sharp enough to cut. "How touching, the help thinking they matter." He pulls out his phone again, this time showing the screen to Emmett. It displays a photo of Lily at her school, taken just yesterday. "Beautiful daughter you have," Sterling says conversationally, though his tone suggests anything but casual interest. "Third grade at Riverside Elementary. Severe asthma, requires expensive medication." The threat is elegantly wrapped but unmistakable. Emmett's blood turns to ice water in his veins. "In fact, I've been reviewing employee assistance programs. Your daughter would qualify for our new executive scholarship fund." The offer dangles between them like a poisoned apple. $30,000 a year through college, full medical coverage, all for a signature on some papers. Sterling's eyes glitter with satisfaction as he watches Emmett process the implications. Stay quiet, and Lily gets everything she needs. Speak up and lose not just the job, but any chance at her future. "Make your choice, Mr. Thorne," Sterling says softly, his gloved hand still resting on Celeste's shoulder. "Be a hero, or be a father. You can't be both." The words hit exactly where intended. Emmett looks down at Celeste, whose eyes are pleading even as her body grows weaker. Before he can respond, Dr. Whitmore produces a syringe from his bag. "A mild sedative to help with transport," he explains, though the liquid inside looks too viscous for any sedative Emmett knows. As the needle approaches Celeste's arm, she thrashes weakly. Her hand finds Emmett's again, and this time she presses something into his palm, a small key on a silver chain. The injection takes effect almost instantly. Celeste's body goes limp, her eyes rolling back as Sterling catches her with practiced ease. "There we go. Much better," he murmurs, stroking her hair with those gloved fingers. The gesture would seem tender, if not for the predatory satisfaction in his expression. He turns to Emmett, who has quietly pocketed the key. "You're still here?" "My shift doesn't end until 6 a.m., Emmett replies evenly, though his mind races with the implications of what he's witnessed. Sterling chuckles, a sound like breaking glass. "Such dedication to minimum wage work. How admirable." He gestures to Dr. Whitmore, who begins preparing a gurney that seems to have materialized from nowhere. "We'll be taking Miss Hawthorne to the executive medical suite on the 40th floor. "That's not protocol," Emmett says before he can stop himself. Both men freeze, turning to stare at him with identical expressions of cold amusement. "Protocol," Sterling repeats the word, as if tasting something bitter. "And what would a janitor know about medical protocol?" The question hangs between them like a loaded gun. Emmett knows he's already revealed too much, but Celeste's life might depend on someone paying attention. "Everyone knows serious medical events require hospital documentation," he says carefully. "For insurance, liability, standard procedure." Sterling's smile widens, showing too many teeth. "How fortunate then that I've already handled the documentation." He produces a tablet from his coat, the screen showing completed medical forms time-stamped from an hour ago, before Celeste even collapsed. The impossibility of it makes Emmett's skin crawl. "You seem confused, Mr. Thorne." Dr. Whitmore says smoothly, moving to Sterling's side. Perhaps you should take a break. Night shift can be so disorienting. There's something wrong with how he moves, too similar to Sterling's gait. Even their breathing seems synchronized. As they wheel Celeste toward the service elevator, Emmett makes a decision that will change everything. He pulls out his phone and snaps a photo of the unconscious CEO, making sure to capture the gray tinge to her skin. Sterling whirls around at the sound of the camera click. His face transforms into something genuinely frightening for just a second before the mask slides back into place. "Delete that immediately," Sterling commands, striding toward him. But Emmett has already sent it to his personal cloud storage, a habit learned from his hospital days when documentation could save lives or careers. "It's deleted," Emmett lies, showing the empty camera roll. Sterling's eyes narrow, clearly not believing him, but calculating his next move. "You know what I think?" Sterling says, pulling off one black glove to reveal a hand covered in old scars. "I think you're confused about your place in this world, Mr. Thorne." He flexes his fingers, the scars creating patterns that seem almost deliberate. You push a mop, you empty trash, you remain invisible. That's the natural order. "Unless someone needs help," Emmett counters, surprised by his own boldness. Sterling's scarred hand clenches into a fist. "Heroes are a luxury the poor can't afford," he says softly, dangerously. "Ask yourself, is your conscience worth your daughter's future?" Before Emmett can respond, his phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. It's a photo of Lily at home, asleep in her bed, taken from inside her room. The image was captured less than 5 minutes ago. Ice floods through Emmett's veins as he realizes the implication. "How?" he starts, but Sterling is already walking away, pulling his glove back on. "Sweet dreams, Mr. Thorne," he calls over his shoulder. "Do give my regards to little Lily." Emmett's hands shake as he abandons his cleaning cart and races to the employee break room. He needs to call his neighbor who watches Lily, needs to make sure she's safe. But when he dials, the phone rings endlessly with no answer. Panic rises in his throat like bile. He tries again, then again, each unanswered ring ratcheting up his terror. Finally, on the 4th attempt, Mrs. Chen picks up, sounding groggy. "Lily's fine, Emmett," she assures him, though her voice carries an odd note. "A nice man from your company came by earlier, said you'd gotten a promotion and wanted to make sure she had her new inhaler." The words hit like physical blows. Sterling has been in his home, near his daughter, and Mrs. Chen let him in. "What man?" Emmett asks, though he already knows. "Said his name was Ashford from Human Resources," Mrs. Chen replies. "Such a generous company. He left a scholarship application and everything." The name is different, but Emmett would bet anything the description matches Sterling. The man is playing multiple roles, wearing different faces like masks. After hanging up, Emmett sits in the empty break room trying to process what he's stumbled into. Celeste Hawthorne is being poisoned by her own CFO, who apparently has multiple identities and has already inserted himself into Emmett's life. The key in his pocket feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Whatever door it opens, Celeste risked everything to give it to him. He thinks about walking away, taking Lily and disappearing before Sterling can tighten the noose. But the image of Celeste's desperate eyes haunts him, and his medical training screamed that she doesn't have long. The grayish skin tone, the uneven pupils. If he's right about the type of poison, she has maybe 7 days before permanent paralysis sets in. After that, even if she survives, she'll be locked inside her own body forever. The executive floors require special access that a janitor's key card doesn't provide. But Emmett learned long ago that hospitals and hotels have the same weakness: service corridors that everyone forgets exist. He takes the freight elevator to the 39th floor, then uses the maintenance stairs that run between levels. The key Celeste gave him burns in his pocket like a guilty secret. The 40th floor is eerily quiet, all marble and mahogany, with paintings worth more than Emmett will make in a lifetime. He stays close to the walls, knowing there are cameras everywhere, but hoping whoever monitors them at this hour is less than vigilant. The executive medical suite is at the end of the hall, its frosted glass doors revealing nothing of what lies beyond. Emmett can hear voices inside, though they're muffled. He creeps closer, pressing himself against the wall beside the door. Through a slim gap where the frosted glass meets the frame, he can see Sterling standing over Celeste's bed. She's hooked to an IV drip, the bag containing a strange, amber-colored fluid. Sterling is speaking to someone out of view, his tone casual, as if discussing the weather. The beauty of Serpent's kiss is its subtlety, Sterling is saying, and Emmett recognizes the name from his toxicology rotation years ago. It's a synthetic compound that mimics natural neurodegeneration, almost impossible to detect without specific tests. 7 days to complete paralysis, but the mind remains perfectly intact. She'll be aware of everything, but unable to move or speak. Poetic justice for someone who built an empire on giving orders, another voice replies, and Emmett's blood freezes. It sounds exactly like Sterling, the same inflection and rhythm. He shifts position to get a better view and nearly gasps. There are 2 Sterlings in the room, identical down to the black gloves and scarred hands. "Brother, you always were too theatrical," the second Sterling says, adjusting Celeste's IV with practiced ease. Sometimes simple elimination is more elegant than elaborate suffering. The first Sterling laughs, a sound that makes Emmett's skin crawl. "Where's the artistry in that, Sebastian? Besides, she needs to understand what it feels like to be powerless." Emmett's mind reels as he processes what he's seeing. Twins, or perhaps triplets, all playing different roles. It explains how Sterling seemed to be everywhere at once, how documents were filed before events happened. But it doesn't explain why they're doing this to Celeste. What could she have done to inspire such elaborate cruelty? "Has our janitor problem been handled?" the one called Sebastian asks, and Emmett presses closer to hear. "He's been properly motivated," the first Sterling replies with satisfaction. The daughter was an unexpected gift. Nothing ensures silence like a parent's fear. They both chuckle at this. The synchronized sound is deeply unsettling. Still, he noticed things, Sebastian muses, reaching into his pocket. He pulls out a phone, scrolling through what looks like security footage. "See here, he recognized the symptoms immediately, even specified toxic exposure." The screen shows Emmett in the lobby, speaking up despite Sterling's pressure. "That's not normal janitor behavior. I've been wondering about that myself," Sterling agrees, pulling out his own tablet. "Emmett Thorne, hired 2 years ago. Previous employment history, curiously sparse." His fingers dance across the screen. "But dig deeper, and you find some interesting gaps. 5 years at St. Mary's Hospital that suddenly ends, then nothing for 6 months before he resurfaces pushing a mop." Emmett knows he should leave, has heard enough to know he's in danger. But something keeps him frozen in place as the 2 identical men dissect his life. "Medical background would explain the recognition," Sebastian says thoughtfully. "Should we eliminate him as a precaution?" "Too messy, too soon," Sterling replies, checking his watch, a gold piece that catches the light. "Besides, he's more useful alive for now. Someone needs to be blamed when poor Celeste succumbs to her mysterious illness." The casual way they discuss framing him for murder makes Emmett's stomach turn. But before he can process the full implications, Celeste's eyes flutter open. She can't speak through the breathing tube they've inserted, but her eyes are alert and filled with terror. Both Sterlings notice immediately, moving to her bedside with false concern. "Don't try to talk, darling," Sterling coos, stroking her hair with his gloved hand. "You're very sick, but we're taking wonderful care of you." Celeste's eyes dart frantically between the two identical faces, the horror of her situation clearly dawning. Sebastian produces another syringe, this one filled with clear liquid. "Just something to help you rest," he says soothingly. But Celeste thrashes against the restraints they've added to her bed, tears streaming down her face. Now, Sterling chides, holding her head still as his brother approaches with the needle. "Fighting will only make it worse, though I suppose you'll learn that lesson thoroughly over the next week." The cruelty in his voice is absolute. Emmett watches Celeste's desperate struggle and knows he can't stand by any longer. He bursts through the door before his rational mind can stop him. Both Sterlings turn in perfect synchronization, their identical faces showing identical surprise before morphing into identical smiles. "Mr. Thorne," they say in unison, the effect deeply disturbing. "Working overtime, are we?" "Step away from her," Emmett commands, pulling out his phone. "I've already sent everything I've recorded to the police." It's a bluff. He hasn't recorded anything, but he needs to buy time. The twins exchange amused glances that suggest they see right through him. "How heroic," Sterling says, moving toward him slowly. The janitor, riding to save the damsel in distress. Sebastian circles from the other direction. Emmett realizes too late that he's being flanked. "Tell me, what exactly did you think would happen here? The truth will come out," Emmett says, trying to keep his voice steady. "Whatever you're planning, it won't work." Both men laugh, that synchronized sound that seems to echo in his bones. "The truth?" Sebastian asks mockingly. "Whose truth? Yours or ours?" Sterling pulls out a folder from a nearby cabinet, spreading papers across a side table. "Medical records showing Miss Hawthorne's long history of psychological issues," he explains pleasantly. "Testimony from concerned colleagues about her erratic behavior," he adds another document. "Security footage of her attempting to harm herself, digitally edited, but quite convincing." "You've created an entire false narrative," Emmett realizes with horror. Sebastian nods approvingly. "Not created, crafted," he corrects. "Reality is surprisingly malleable when you have the resources." Celeste makes a sound through the breathing tube, drawing everyone's attention. Her hand moves weakly, fingers forming shapes that Emmett recognizes as sign language. "Help me," she signs desperately. Only Emmett seems to understand, the twins dismissing it as random movements. "She's asking for help," Emmett translates, moving toward her bed. Sterling blocks his path, but not before Emmett sees Celeste sign something else. "Third one. There's a third one." The revelation hits like cold water. 3 identical brothers, all wearing the same face, playing an elaborate game with human lives. But before he can process this, the door opens again. Another Sterling walks in, this one wearing a police detective's badge. "Got a report of a disturbance," the third Sterling says, his performance pitch perfect. "Someone want to tell me what's going on here?" The absurdity of the situation would be laughable if it weren't so terrifying. 3 identical men pretending to be different people, all focused on destroying one woman. "Officer, thank God you're here," the first Sterling says smoothly. "This man broke into our medical facility. He's been stalking Miss Hawthorne." The detective nods seriously, pulling out handcuffs. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me." Emmett backs away, his mind racing for options. But then he notices something. The detective's gloves are slightly different, the leather worn in a different pattern. It's a tiny detail, but it gives him an idea. "Which one of you is the real Sterling Blackwood?" he asks suddenly. All three men freeze, something dangerous flickering across their identical features. For just a moment, the masks slip completely. "We're all real," they say in perfect unison. The synchronized response is so unnatural it makes Emmett's skin crawl. The moment stretches taut as the three identical men stare at Emmett with predatory focus. Celeste's heart monitor begins beeping faster, the sound cutting through the tension. "Her vitals are spiking," Emmett says, medical instincts overriding fear. "Whatever you're giving her is causing tachycardia." "Step away from the patient," the Detective Sterling commands, hand moving to his service weapon. But Emmett sees his opening. If they want to maintain their charade, they can't just shoot him in front of witnesses, even manufactured ones. "She needs atropine," Emmett says firmly, moving to the medical supply cabinet. "The interaction between what you're giving her and her regular medications is causing cardiac stress." He's making educated guesses based on the symptoms, but the technical language gives him authority. The brothers exchange glances, their perfect synchronization momentarily broken by uncertainty. "You don't have authorization," Sebastian starts, but Emmett cuts him off. "You have about 3 minutes before she goes into cardiac arrest, and then you'll have to explain a dead CEO instead of a sick one." The logic lands. They need Celeste alive for their plan to work. Sterling nods curtly to Sebastian, who steps aside. Emmett quickly prepares an injection, his hand steady despite everything. As he leans over to administer it, Celeste's eyes lock onto his. She blinks 3 times slowly, Morse code for O, then 3 quick blinks. S. She's still fighting, still trying to communicate. Emmett squeezes her hand once in acknowledgement. The atropine works quickly, Celeste's heart rate stabilizing. The brothers watch with identical expressions of cold calculation. "Impressive," Sterling finally says. "Perhaps we've underestimated our janitor. Or perhaps he's not really a janitor," the Detective Sterling suggests, circling closer. "The way you handled that medication, the medical terminology, that's not something you learn from WebMD." The accusation hangs in the air. Emmett knows his cover is blown, but maybe that's not entirely bad. "I had some medical training," he admits carefully. "Long time ago. Different life." The 3 brothers lean forward with synchronized interest. "How fascinating," Sebastian murmurs. "A failed doctor reduced to pushing a mop. There's a story there." "Not failed," Emmett corrects, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "I refused to falsify medical records for an insurance fraud scheme. Lost my license for it." The truth feels strange after 2 years of hiding, but something about facing these predators makes him want to reclaim who he used to be. "Noble," Sterling says, though his tone suggests he finds the concept amusing. "Destroying your career for principles. How wonderfully foolish." He moves to the IV bag, adjusting the drip rate. "Though I suppose we should thank you for the career change. Doctors are so much harder to discredit than janitors." The casual cruelty of the statement hits its mark. But then Emmett notices something. As Sterling adjusts the IV, his glove pulls back slightly, revealing that the scars on his hand form a pattern. Looking at the other 2, he realizes each has different scar patterns. They're marked, perhaps deliberately, to tell them apart. "Why her?" Emmett asks suddenly, gesturing to Celeste. What could she have possibly done to deserve this? The question seems to catch them off guard. For a moment, something almost human flickers across their faces. "She inherited what should have been ours," Sebastian says quietly. "Our father built the foundation of this empire before he died, and her father stole it." The revelation reframes everything. This isn't random cruelty, but calculated revenge. 20 years we've planned this," Sterling adds, his voice carrying decades of resentment. 20 years of wearing different faces, playing different roles, positioning ourselves perfectly. The Detective Sterling laughs bitterly. She never even knew we existed. The bastard triplets her father destroyed to build his legacy. The mythology they've built around their revenge is clearly elaborate, but Emmett sees the flaw in it immediately. If that were true, DNA would prove everything, he points out. You could have claimed inheritance legally. Our father made sure we could never prove it. Sterling spits, real anger breaking through his control. Destroyed all records, paid off everyone who knew. We don't exist on paper. The perfect crime that created perfect criminals. Emmett begins to understand the depth of their psychological damage. So you're going to torture an innocent woman for her father's sins? Emmett asks. Celeste makes another sound through the breathing tube, her eyes pleading. Innocent! All three brothers laugh simultaneously, the sound echoing off the walls. Tell him about Project Prometheus, Celeste, Sterling suggests mockingly. Tell him about the families you destroyed with your efficiency reforms. Celeste's eyes fill with tears, but there's something else there too. Guilt. Every empire is built on graves, Sebastian says philosophically. We're just making sure she knows what it feels like to be buried alive. The poetry of their revenge would be almost admirable if it weren't so monstrous. Emmett realizes he's dealing with highly intelligent psychopaths who've had decades to perfect their plan. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. It's another photo of Lily, this time at school, taken just minutes ago, despite it being 3 a.m. The message is clear. They have eyes everywhere, at all times. The net is already closing around him. You should go home, Mr. Thorne, the Detective Sterling suggests with false kindness. Your shift ended an hour ago, and your daughter will be waking up soon. The threat is elegantly wrapped but unmistakable. Cooperate, or Lily pays the price. But as Emmett looks at Celeste, sees the terror and resignation in her eyes, he makes a decision. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. I'm not leaving her alone with you, he says firmly. All three brothers stiffen, their masks slipping for just a moment. That's not your choice, Sterling says, his voice dropping to something truly dangerous. But before anyone can move, alarms begin blaring throughout the building. Not fire alarms, medical emergency alerts. The sound Emmett knows means someone has called a code blue somewhere in the hotel. The brothers exchange rapid glances, a moment of uncertainty in their perfect control. The Detective Sterling's radio crackles to life. All units, we have a situation in the main lobby. Multiple casualties, possible poisoning incident. Emmett's blood runs cold as he realizes what this means. If there are other victims, the hotel will be swarming with real police and medical personnel soon. The brothers seem to reach the same conclusion. Their elaborate charade is about to collapse. Move her now, Sterling commands Sebastian, who begins disconnecting monitors. We'll continue at the secondary location. But as they prepare to transport Celeste, she suddenly convulses. The heart monitor screams a warning as her vitals crash. This isn't acting. Something is genuinely wrong. Emmett rushes forward, his medical training overriding everything else. She's going into anaphylactic shock, he shouts, recognizing the symptoms. Someone gave her something she's allergic to. The brothers look genuinely confused for the first time. That's impossible, Sebastian insists. We know her complete medical history. But Sterling is already backing away, pulling out his phone. It's a setup, he says quietly. Someone else is playing. The revelation that they might not be the only predators in this game changes everything. As Emmett works frantically to stabilize Celeste, he hears Sterling on the phone. Abort everything. We've been compromised. Through the chaos, Celeste's eyes find Emmett's one more time. She blinks rapidly in a pattern he recognizes. Coordinates. She's giving him coordinates. But before he can process what they mean, the lights cut out completely. The emergency power doesn't kick in, leaving them in absolute darkness. The darkness is absolute, suffocating. Emmett's hands work from memory alone, finding Celeste's pulse point as emergency sirens wail outside. In the black void, he hears the three brothers moving with practiced coordination, their footsteps creating a triangulated pattern around him and their victim. "Sebastian, northwest exit." Sterling's voice cuts through the dark. "Detective Morrison, handle the responders." The third brother's acknowledgement comes from somewhere near the door. Then a flashlight beam cuts through the darkness, held by someone Emmett can't see. "Nobody move," a woman's voice commands, strong and authoritative. The beam illuminates a figure in tactical gear, weapon drawn. "Agent Sarah Brennan, FBI. We've had this building under surveillance for 3 months." The brothers freeze in perfect synchronization. For once, their rehearsed performance has no script for this scenario. Sterling recovers first, his voice smoothly shifting to concern. "Thank God you're here, Agent. This man broke into our medical facility and poisoned Miss Hawthorne." But Brennan's flashlight swings to illuminate his face. "Save it, Mr. Blackwood. Or should I say, Mr. Nathaniel Crest. Or perhaps Dr. Marcus Whitmore." She knows about the multiple identities. The game is crumbling. "We have video evidence of you entering this building as 3 different people tonight," Brennan continues, her weapon steady. "Your facial recognition threw up so many flags, the system nearly crashed." Sebastian makes a subtle movement toward the IV bag. Brennan's flashlight catches him immediately. "Touch that IV, and I'll drop you where you stand," she warns. Through the chaos, Emmett hears Celeste's breathing growing more labored. "She needs immediate medical attention," he interjects desperately. "Real medical attention, not whatever poison cocktail they've been feeding her." The lights suddenly flicker back on, revealing 2 more agents flanking the doorway. The brothers stand in a triangle formation, their identical faces showing identical calculating expressions. "You have no jurisdiction here," the detective Sterling says, hand moving toward his fake badge. "I'm a decorated officer." "Officer Morrison died 6 months ago," Brennan interrupts. "We found his body last week. You've been impersonating a dead cop." The revelation hangs heavy in the air. Even Emmett, who knew they were dangerous, feels a chill at the casual mention of murder. Sterling's mask finally cracks completely, revealing something inhuman underneath. "You have no idea what you're interfering with," he hisses. 20 years of planning, positioning, perfect execution. His words cut off as Celeste suddenly gasps. The breathing tube has shifted, and she's choking. Emmett doesn't think, just acts. He rushes to her side, carefully adjusting the tube while checking her vitals. Her eyes are rolling back, skin taking on a bluish tinge. "She's going into respiratory failure," he announces. "We need to get her to a real hospital now. Paramedics are 3 minutes out," Brennan says, but Emmett shakes his head. "She doesn't have 3 minutes." He looks at the IV bag, its amber contents still dripping into her veins. Without hesitation, he rips the line out, blood spattering across the white sheets. "You're killing her!" Sebastian shouts, starting forward. 2 agents restrain him immediately. Sterling watches with an expression of fascination. Look at him play hero, the failed doctor trying to redeem himself. Emmett ignores the barb, focusing on Celeste. Her breathing is shallow, but steadier, without the poisoned drip. He remembers the coordinates she blinked. They must mean something crucial. "4th floor, room 712, he says suddenly, the numbers clicking into place. Brennan's eyes sharpen. "What's in room 712? Emmett doesn't know, but Celeste's desperate message must have been important. "Evidence, maybe," Something she wanted me to find? Sebastian, no! Sterling shouts suddenly. His brother has produced a small device from his pocket, thumb hovering over a button. Insurance policy, Sebastian says calmly. This building is rigged with enough accelerant to turn it into a crematorium. One button, and we all burn together. The agents freeze, weapons trained, but unable to risk shooting. Brennan keeps her voice level. You'll die too. Sebastian smiles, an expression that looks wrong on features identical to Sterling's. We were dead the moment our father denied us. This is just making it official. Stop being dramatic, the third brother says, but there's resignation in his voice. We lost. Accept it. The fracture between them is subtle, but real. For the first time, they're not in perfect synchronization. Emmett sees his opportunity in their division. You're not all the same person, are you? The question lands like a physical blow. All three brothers turn to stare at him. You've been playing one consciousness split 3 ways, but you're individuals. You have different opinions, different limits. Shut up, Sterling snarls. But Emmett continues. The detective doesn't want to die. Look at his face. Indeed, the third brother has stepped slightly away from Sebastian. The unified front is cracking. We swore an oath, Sebastian says to his brothers. If we couldn't have justice, we'd have oblivion. Sterling nods slowly, but the detective shakes his head. That was before. Things are different now. Different how? Sebastian demands. The detective pulls off his fake badge, revealing another identity underneath. A medical ID for Dr. Marcus Whitmore. Because I actually fell in love with her, he admits quietly. The confession explodes like a bomb in the room. Sterling turns on him with fury. You weak fool! She's the enemy's daughter! But Marcus Morrison where Whitmore stands firm. She's also brilliant and kind when she's not terrified. I've watched her for 2 years. The revelation recontextualizes everything. One of them broke from the plan. You're the one who's been diluting the poison, Emmett realizes suddenly. That's why she's still alive after days of exposure. You've been sabotaging your own brothers. Marcus nods, tears streaming down his identical face. I couldn't watch her suffer anymore. Sebastian's thumb tightens on the detonator. Traitor. You've destroyed everything. But before he can press it, Celeste's hand shoots out. She's pulled the breathing tube out herself, gasping. Wait, she croaks, her voice destroyed but determined. Everyone freezes, even Sebastian. I know who your father was. The words hang in the air like suspended lightning. All 3 brothers lean forward with desperate hunger. Impossible, Sterling breathes. All records were destroyed. Celeste struggles to sit up, Emmett supporting her carefully. Her voice is barely a whisper, but carries absolute conviction. Jonathan Crest, 3 sons with Margaret Blackwood, born April 15th, 1985. The specificity hits them like physical blows. She knows exact details that should be impossible to know. How? Marcus asks, wonder replacing his tears. Celeste's eyes are sad, but steady. Because my father kept records of everyone he destroyed. I found them after he died. Hundreds of files on families he ruined building his empire. The weight of inherited guilt is crushing. She's been carrying her father's sins for years. I've been trying to make amends, she continues weakly. Secret payments to families, scholarships for children. I found you 6 months ago. Sterling staggers backward. You knew we were coming. I hoped you were coming, Celeste corrects. I needed to face my father's victims, to apologize, to make things right. The revelation reframes everything again. She wasn't an ignorant target, but a willing participant in her own punishment. You let us poison you? Sebastian's voice cracks with disbelief. Celeste nods weakly. I thought if you had your revenge, the cycle would end. But you kept escalating, and innocent people got hurt. The staff in the lobby. We didn't poison anyone else. Sterling interrupts, confusion evident. The lobby situation isn't us. Agent Brennan's radio crackles urgently. We have 17 victims downstairs, all hotel employees, who drank from the coffee station. The pieces click horribly into place. Someone else is playing this game. There's another player, Emmett says, dread creeping up his spine. Someone who wanted chaos as cover. His phone buzzes. Another photo of Lily. But this time, she's not at home or school. She's in what looks like a warehouse. The message reads, "Bring Celeste to the coordinates she gave you, or your daughter learns what real fear feels like." The sender is blocked, untraceable. Emmett's hands shake as he shows it to Brennan. They have my daughter, the fourth brother, Marcus whispers suddenly. Sterling, the fourth brother. We always suspected, but could never prove. Sterling's face drains of color. Marcus, if he's real, if he's been watching, then this was all his game. Sebastian finishes, lowering the detonator. We were puppets thinking we were puppeteers. The meta level of manipulation is staggering. Even the manipulators were being manipulated. Brennan makes rapid decisions. 2 teams. One secures these 3. Another comes with me to those coordinates. But Celeste grabs her arm weakly. No, he wants me to come. It has to look real, or Lily dies. I'm not sending a poisoned CEO into a trap, Brennan states firmly. But Emmett is already helping Celeste stand. I'm going with her, he says. That little girl is everything to me. The room 712 isn't a hotel room, but a service corridor. Inside, they find elaborate surveillance equipment monitoring every corner of the building. Hundreds of screens show different angles, different moments. One screen shows Sterling planning. Another shows Marcus diluting poison. Another shows Emmett cleaning floors. My God, Brennan breathes. Someone's been watching everyone for years. A printer in the corner starts suddenly. It produces a single page with an address. An abandoned textile factory on the outskirts of the city. He wants an audience, Celeste says weakly. She's leaning heavily on Emmett, but insists on walking. This brother, if he exists, he's the director of this entire show. The psychological profile emerging is terrifying. Someone patient enough to watch his brother's plot for 20 years. They take an unmarked FBI vehicle, Brennan driving while coordinating backup. Celeste lies across the back seat, her head in Emmett's lap. Why did you really give me that key? He asks quietly. She manages a weak smile. Because you see people when everyone else sees roles, she answers. You saw me dying when Sterling saw an opportunity. That's rare. The connection between them isn't romantic yet. It's something deeper, mutual recognition of humanity in inhuman circumstances. Tell me about Lily, Celeste requests, trying to stay conscious. Emmett talks about his daughter's drawings, her questions about the stars, her fearlessness despite her illness. She sounds remarkable, Celeste whispers, like her father. The textile factory looms against the dawn sky like a tomb. Brennan parks a block away, backup units holding position. I count 15 heat signatures inside, she reports, studying her tablet. But infrared's being scrambled. Could be more. Or less, Emmett points out. He's been faking identities. Those heat signatures could be dummies. The level of paranoia required to navigate this situation is exhausting. Every shadow could be a trap. Every truth, a lie. They enter through a loading dock, the sunrise casting long shadows through broken windows. The machinery stands silent like metal skeletons. "Daddy!" Lily's voice echoes from somewhere above. Emmett's heart nearly breaks from relief and terror combined. "I'm coming, sweetheart," he calls back. Her voice sounds unharmed, but frightened. They climb rusted stairs to the factory's main floor. It's been transformed into a bizarre theater with chairs arranged facing a makeshift stage. On the stage sits Lily, unharmed, but secured to a chair. Beside her stands a man who could be Sterling's twin, except his face shows an intelligence the others lack. "Welcome to the final act," he says pleasantly. "I'm Samuel, the brother they never knew existed." "Let her go," Emmett demands, starting forward. Samuel raises a hand, and Emmett notices the vest. Lily is wearing something that looks disturbingly like explosives. "Theatrical, I know," Samuel apologizes, "but my brother set such a dramatic tone, I felt obligated to match it." "You orchestrated everything," Celeste says, her voice stronger with adrenaline. "You've been watching, waiting, pulling strings." Samuel applauds slowly. "Brilliant woman. No wonder Marcus fell for you." 20 years I've watched my brothers plot their elaborate revenge," Samuel explains, beginning to pace. "So messy, so emotional. I prefer elegant solutions." He produces a document from his jacket. "Sign this, Miss Hawthorne. Complete transfer of your company to its rightful heirs." "The rightful heirs are in FBI custody," Brennan points out, weapon drawn but unable to risk shooting. Samuel laughs genuinely. "Those 3 idiots? They're decoys I've been cultivating. The real heir stands before you." The layers of deception are nauseating. Even the brothers' brotherhood was a lie. "They don't know you exist," Emmett realizes. "You let them think they were special, unique, while I positioned myself everywhere," Samuel confirms. "I'm already on your board, Miss Hawthorne. Have been for 3 years as Thomas Ashford." Another mask, another identity. The scope of infiltration is breathtaking. "I poisoned the lobby staff," he continues casually. "Created chaos to flush out my brother's plan. Worked perfectly." 17 innocent people hurt for strategic advantage. He's more monstrous than all 3 brothers combined. "Daddy, I'm scared," Lily whimpers. Emmett's control nearly breaks. "It's okay, baby. We're going to go home soon." But Samuel shakes his head. "Home is a construct about to change dramatically," he says. "Sign the papers, or little Lily learns what explosives do." Celeste steps forward despite barely being able to stand. "I'll sign, but only if you let them go first." Samuel considers this. Counteroffer. "You sign, then everyone goes free." "Including your brothers?" Celeste asks. Samuel's expression darkens. "Those failed experiments? They can rot for all I care." The casual dismissal of family reveals his true nature. He's incapable of human connection. Brennan's radio crackles. Backup is in position, but Samuel seems unconcerned. "Agent Brennan, check your vest pocket," he suggests mildly. She does, finding a small device that shouldn't be there. "GPS tracker and audio monitor," Samuel explains. "I've heard every word, know every position. Your backup is surrounding an empty building 3 blocks away." The misdirection is masterful. He's been steps ahead the entire time. "You're not going to let us leave regardless," Emmett states with certainty. Samuel's smile confirms it. "The papers are actually irrelevant," he admits. "I already own everything through shell companies. This is about something else." "What then?" Celeste demands. Samuel's expression shifts to something almost vulnerable. "Recognition," he says quietly. 20 years of being invisible, even to my own brothers. I want someone to see the masterpiece I've created." The pathology is clear, a narcissistic need for acknowledgement, but Emmett sees opportunity in it. "We see you," he says carefully. The planning, the patience, the brilliance. It's unprecedented. Samuel's eyes light up with desperate hunger. You understand. The layers, the complexity. He moves closer to Emmett, temporarily forgetting Lily. Tell me, what was your favorite manipulation? Emmett forces himself to engage. The way you made your brothers think they were in control while you guided everything. Genius. Samuel practically glows with the praise. Behind him, Brennan is slowly moving toward Lily. The coffee poisoning was inspired, Celeste adds, drawing his attention. Creating chaos to reveal their plan. Artistic. Samuel turns to her, drinking in the recognition. He doesn't notice Brennan reaching for Lily's vest. Stop, a new voice commands. Everyone freezes as Marcus walks in, having somehow escaped custody. Samuel, brother, I know you. The recognition in his voice is genuine. Samuel's composure cracks. Impossible, you never knew. Marcus shakes his head. I found Mom's diary last year. She wrote about the fourth baby, the one father sold. The revelation lands like a sledgehammer. Even monsters have origin stories. Sold, Emmett breathes. Samuel's face contorts with decades of suppressed rage. To a pharmaceutical company for experimental testing, he confirms. I was raised in a lab until I was 12. Then I escaped and began planning. The tragedy underneath the monsterhood is staggering. He's not just evil. He's evil created by systematic abuse. I'm sorry, Celeste says, and means it. What my father did, what happened to you. Save your pity, Samuel snarls, composure shattering. I transcended what was done to me, became something greater. But Marcus steps closer, hands raised peacefully. You became alone. We all did. The commonality between them is unexpected, but it doesn't have to continue. We could be brothers, real brothers. Now you want family? Samuel laughs bitterly. After I've won everything? But there's longing in his voice, the invisible brother desperate to be seen. You haven't won anything, Emmett says quietly. You've got money, power, but you're still that abandoned child desperate for connection. The psychological truth cuts deep. Samuel's hand moves toward a concealed weapon. Don't, Brennan warns, but Samuel's past the point of rational thought. I'll show you connection. He reaches for the detonator on Lily's vest, but it's not there. Brennan has already removed it. The moment of realization breaks him. His perfect plan has a fatal flaw. He underestimated human cooperation. No, this isn't possible. I calculated everything. You calculated transactions, Emmett says, moving toward Lily. You didn't calculate people choosing to help each other. He reaches his daughter, pulling her into his arms. She clings to him, sobbing. Samuel pulls out a gun, aiming at Celeste. If I can't have recognition, I'll have revenge. But Marcus moves faster. He tackles his brother, the gun firing into the ceiling. The brothers wrestle on the ground, identical faces contorted with opposite emotions. Marcus fights to subdue. Samuel fights to destroy. You could have been one of us, Marcus gasps. We would have welcomed you. Liar, Samuel spits, but he's weakening. The years of isolation have left him physically weaker than his brothers. Brennan moves in with restraints. Within seconds, Samuel is secured. It's over, she announces, but Samuel laughs. Check the building foundation. I wasn't bluffing about the explosives. The factory shudders as if in response. Somewhere below, something begins ticking. Everyone out now, Brennan commands. Emmett carries Lily while supporting Celeste, Marcus helping from her other side. They rush down the stairs as the ticking accelerates. The building is actually rigged to explode. They burst out of the loading dock as the first explosion rocks the foundation. The factory begins collapsing behind them, like a house of cards. The sunrise illuminates the destruction. Samuel's masterpiece destroying itself. Poetic, Marcus observes sadly. He built his revenge so perfectly it couldn't exist without destroying everything. They stand at a safe distance, watching the past literally crumble. Lily hides her face in Emmett's shoulder. 3 weeks later, Emmett stands in a very different building, the executive boardroom of Hawthorne Legacy Hotels. Celeste, recovered but still weak, sits at the head of the table. She's addressing the board about restructuring. Emmett Thorne will be heading our new medical safety division, she announces. His expertise has already saved 17 employees' lives. The promotion feels surreal. From janitor to executive in a month. After the meeting, they stand by the windows overlooking the city. Lily is in the corner, drawing at a small table Celeste had installed specifically for her. "You don't owe me this," Emmett says quietly. Celeste turns to him with something soft in her eyes. "This isn't payment," she clarifies. "This is recognizing value that was always there. You were never really a janitor." The validation hits deeper than expected. For 2 years, he'd believed his own cover story. "The brothers?" he asks. She sighs heavily. Sterling and Sebastian are facing life sentences, multiple murder charges. Marcus is testifying against them in exchange for psychiatric treatment. The boy sold to a lab, the triplets denied existence, all of them broken by the same man's greed. And Samuel? Emmett wonders. Celeste's expression darkens. Disappeared from federal custody. No one knows how. He's too intelligent to stay caged. The thought is chilling. A genius psychopath loose in the world. "Daddy, look!" Lily calls out. She's drawn the 3 of them standing together, but there's a shadow in the corner, a 4th figure watching. "Who's that?" Emmett asks. Lily shrugs innocently. "The man who watches," she says simply. "He's always there, isn't he?" The implications make both adults freeze. Children see things adults miss. "Lily, have you seen someone watching?" Celeste asks gently. Lily nods, pointing out the window. "Sometimes there, sometimes in the lobby. He has your face," she tells Celeste. "But sadder." The description doesn't match any of the brothers. This is someone new. Emmett pulls Lily close protectively, while Celeste calls security. Within minutes, they're reviewing footage. There, a man in a maintenance uniform, a man in a suit, a delivery driver. All different, but something similar in their posture. Another brother? Emmett wonders. But Celeste shakes her head. "Look closer," she says, enhancing the image. The revelation is stunning. It's a woman, disguised brilliantly. "My God," Celeste breathes. That's impossible." She pulls up an old photograph. It shows her father with a woman who looks exactly like the figure in the footage. "My father's sister. She died 20 years ago. Or perhaps she didn't. The game isn't over. It's just revealed another level. Someone else has been watching, waiting. The vendetta against the Hawthorne family runs deeper than anyone imagined." "We should run," Emmett suggests, but Celeste shakes her head. "No more running. If there are more ghosts, we face them." She takes his hand. "Together?" The word carries weight. Professional, personal, everything in between. "Together," Emmett confirms, squeezing back. Lily adds her small hand to theirs. "All of us together," she states firmly. And somehow, facing unknown threats feels manageable with their makeshift family united. The city stretches below them, full of shadows and secrets, but also full of light, possibility, and hope for something better than revenge. Something like redemption or even love. Celeste's phone vibrates with an unmarked message. The screen shows a single line of text. The sins of brothers pale beside the sins of sisters. The words chill everyone in the room. Whoever this woman is, she's already making contact. "We need to leave the building," Emmett says urgently, his protective instincts flaring. But Celeste stands firm, her jaw set with determination. "This is my territory. I won't be driven from it again." Her strength amazes him. This woman who survived poisoning and betrayal, yet refuses to break. A knock sounds at the boardroom door. Everyone freezes as it slowly opens. An elderly woman enters, wearing a janitor's uniform identical to what Emmett used to wear. Her face is weathered, but unmistakably shares Celeste's bone structure. "Aunt Margaret?" Celeste breathes, the name barely a whisper. The woman smiles, an expression both sad and triumphant. "Hello, darling niece. Though I haven't been Margaret for 20 years. She moves with surprising grace for her age, each step calculated. "You helped them," Celeste realizes with horror. "You helped the brothers plan everything." Margaret shakes her head slowly. "I helped them begin, but they proved too emotional, too sloppy." She settles into a chair as if she belongs there. "I've been cleaning up their messes while positioning myself for the real prize." Lily tugs on Emmett's sleeve, whispering, "Daddy, she smells like the medicine that made me sick last year." The innocent observation triggers Emmett's medical memories. Certain toxic compounds have distinctive odors that linger on skin and clothing. "You've been in the pharmaceutical industry," Emmett states with certainty. Margaret's eyebrows raise appreciatively. "Very good, Dr. Thorne, or should I say, former Dr. Thorne." She knows about his past, has clearly done her research. 20 years ago, your father destroyed me along with the Crest family," Margaret explains to Celeste. "But unlike those boys, I didn't waste time on elaborate revenge. I built an empire in the shadows." She produces a tablet, showing corporate structures. Dozens of companies, all interconnected, all leading back to her. "I own the companies that supply your hotels," she continues calmly. "The medical services, the security firms, even the cleaning companies. I've been inside your walls all along." The scope of infiltration dwarfs what the brothers achieved. This is systematic corporate warfare. "What do you want?" Celeste asks, though her voice carries exhausted resignation. Margaret's smile turns predatory. "Everything you have, everything you are, but earned properly, not stolen like those boys attempted." She stands, moving toward the window. "I'm offering you a choice," Margaret says, gazing at the city below. "Merge with my shadow empire, become my protege. Learn how real power works, or watch everything crumble as I withdraw my services." The ultimatum is elegant in its simplicity. No violence, just economic strangulation. Emmett steps forward, Lily still clinging to his hand. There's a third option. "We expose you, everything you've built." Margaret laughs, genuine amusement in her voice. "With what proof? I've existed as 17 different people for 2 decades. Which identity will you expose?" But Lily, in her innocent wisdom, speaks up. "The real one. The one who cried at my school play last month." Everyone turns to stare at the child. Margaret's composed mask cracks slightly. "You came to my school play?" Lily continues, unafraid. "You sat in the back and cried when I sang. Why?" The question hangs in the air. For all her planning, Margaret hasn't prepared for a child's directness. "You reminded me of someone," Margaret admits quietly. "Someone I lost long ago. My daughter." The revelation shifts everything again. This isn't just about business or revenge. It's about grief, loss, replacement. "She would have been your age," Margaret tells Lily, her voice breaking slightly. If my brother hadn't destroyed my family to build his empire, if Celeste's father hadn't taken everything. Including your child? Celeste asks, horror and sympathy warring in her expression. Margaret nods, tears finally falling. A custody battle I couldn't win because he'd destroyed my credibility, my finances. She died in his care 6 months later. The wound is still raw after 20 years. The boardroom falls silent, processing this final revelation. Every villain in this story is also a victim. Chains of hurt stretching back generations. Emmett squeezes Lily's hand, grateful she's here, safe, alive. Then he looks at Celeste, seeing the weight of inherited guilt crushing her. The cycle stops here, Celeste says firmly, standing to face her aunt. No more revenge, no more games. We work together to heal what our father broke. She extends her hand. Partners, not enemies. Building something better. Margaret stares at the offered hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, she takes it. You're nothing like him, she observes with wonder. You might actually deserve the empire he stole. As the two women embrace tentatively, Emmett feels Lily squeeze his hand. Daddy, is this our family now? The question is innocent but profound. Looking at these broken, healing people, he realizes the answer. Yes, baby, he says softly, pulling her close. This is our family. Complicated, messy, but ours. Celeste meets his eyes over Margaret's shoulder, and something passes between them. Not quite love yet, but the promise of it, growing from shared trauma into something beautiful. The city stretches endlessly beyond the windows, full of danger still, but also full of hope for redemption, for families built from forgiveness rather than blood.